secret instructions of the soldiers of Loyola, the Jesuits. Our Father in heaven, may our minds be lifted up to your heavenly throne, and may your temple body be preserved until that day. That may we worship you, the only true God, our Father, through your Son, Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. We are now continually reading this book, page 25. The first copy of the secret instructions was discovered in the Jesuits College at Paderborn, Westphalia, and a second copy in the city of Prague. In the preface to these is found the same injunction as that above. If these rules fall into the hands of strangers, they must be possibly denied to be the rules of the society. The discovery of the copy at Paderborn was in this wise, as appears from the preface to the English copy published in 1658. When Christian, the Duke of Brunswick, took Paderborn, he seized upon the Jesuit college there and gave their library, together with all their collections of manuscripts, to the Capuchins. In examining these, they discovered the secret instructions among the archives of the rector, and they, being, as were also the other monkish orders, no friends to the Jesuits, brought them before the public. Mr. McGavin in the Glasgow Protestant has given us this information of another copy. John Skipper, a bookseller of Amsterdam, bought a copy of the secret instructions at Antwerp, among other books, and afterwards reprinted it. The Jesuits, being informed that he had bought the book, demanded it back from him, but he had sent it to Holland. One of the society who lived in Amsterdam, hearing it said by a Catholic bookseller named Van Eyck that Skipper was printing a book which concerned the Jesuits, replied that if it was only the rules of the society, he would be under no concern, being told it was the secret instructions of the society. The good father shrugged off his shoulders and, knitting his brow, said that he saw no remedy but denying that this piece came from the society. The Reverend Fathers, however, thought it more advisable to purchase the whole edition, which they soon afterwards did, some few copies accepted. From one of these was afterwards reprinted with the account prefixed, which is said to be taken from two Roman Catholic men of credit. In 1669, the venerable and learned Dr. Compton, Bishop of London, published the English translation of the secret instructions. His arguments on their authenticity and his character as a scholar and divine are a sufficient guarantee that he would never have given his name and influence to sustain a work of dubious authority or calculated to mislead the public. We have only to add that the last American edition published at Princeton and this one which we publish are taken from that translation, which was published in London in 1723 and dedicated to Sir Robert Walpole, who was afterwards Lord Orford, and who had the high honor of being Prime Minister of George I and George II. So this is the English translation of the secret instructions of the Jesuits. Let us hear it. Preface. These private instructions must be carefully retained and kept by the superiors in their own hands, and by them be communicated only to a few of the professors. And when it shall be judged for the benefit of the society to divulge some of them to such as are non-professors, but even these must be under the strictest ties of secrecy, and not as rules committed to writing by others, but as deduced from the experience of him that dictates. And since many of the professors must necessarily from hence be acquainted with these private advices, the society has therefore from their first establishment taken care that no one who is in the secret can take himself to any other order but that of the Carthusians. And this formed the strict retirement in which they live, in the inviolable silence they are compelled to, which the Holy See has been pleased to confirm. The greatest care imaginable must be also taken that these instructions not fall into the hands of strangers, for fear out of envy to our order they should give them as a necessary interpretation. But if this, which God forbid, should happen, Let it be positively denied that these are the principles of the society, and such denial be confirmed by those of our members who are who we are sure know nothing of them. By this means, and by confronting this with our public instructions, printed or written, our credibility will be established beyond opposition. Let the superiors also carefully and warily inquire whether discovery has been made of these instructions by any of our members to strangers, and let none transcribe or suffer them to be transcribed, either for himself or others, without the consent of the general or provincial. And if anyone be suspected of incapacity to keep such important secrets, acquaint him not of your suspicion, but dismiss him. Societatis Jesu. These are translated now, the secret instructions of the Jesuits. Chapter 1, how the society must behave themselves when they begin any new foundation. It will be of great importance for the rendering of our members agreeable to the inhabitants of the place where they design their settlement, to set forth the end of the society in the manner prescribed by our statutes, which lay down that the society ought as diligently to seek occasions of doing good to their neighbors as to themselves. Wherefore, let them with humility discharge the meanest offices in the hospitals, frequently visit the sick, the poor, and the prisoners, and readily and indifferently take the confessions of all, that the novelty of such uncommon and diffusive charity may excite in the principal inhabitants an admiration of our conduct, and possibly draw them into an affection for us. Number 2, let it be remembered by all that the privilege to exercise the ministry of the society must be requested in a modest and religious manner, and that they must use their best endeavors to gain chiefly the favor of such ecclesiastics and secular persons of whose authority they may stand in need. Number 3, let them also remember to visit distant places where, having demonstrated the necessities of the society, they shall readily receive the most inconsiderable alms, which afterwards, being bestowed on other objects, may edify those which are as yet unacquainted with our society, and steer them up to a greater liberality to us. Number 4, let all seem as though they breathe the same spirit and consequently learn the same exterior behavior, that by such an uniformity in so great diversity of man all may be edified. But if any obstinately persist in a contrary deportment, let them be immediately dismissed as dangerous persons and hurtful to the society. Number 5, after this first settlement, let our members be cautious of purchasing lands. But if they happen to buy such are well situated, let this be done in the name of some faithful and trusty friend, and that our poverty may have the more colorable gloss of reality. Let the purchases adjacent to the places wherein our colleges are founded be assigned by the provincial to colleges at a distance, by which means it will be impossible that princes and magistrates can ever attain to certain knowledge what the revenues of the society amount to. Let no places, number 6, be pitched upon by any of our members for founding a college, but opulent cities, the end of the society being the imitation of our blessed Savior, who made his principal residence in the metropolis of Judea, and only transiently visited the less remarkable places. Number 7, let the greatest sums be always extorted from widows by frequent remonstrances of our extreme necessities. Number 8, in every province, let none but the principal be fully appraised of the real value of our revenues, and let what is kept in the treasury of Rome be always kept as an inviolable secret. Number 9, let it be publicly demonstrated and everywhere declared by our members in their private conversation that the only end of the coming there was for the instruction of youth and the good and welfare of the inhabitants, that they do all this without the least view of reward or respect of persons, and that they are not an encumbrance upon the people as other religious societies are. Chapter 2. In what manner the society must deport that they may work themselves into and after the preserve of familiarity with princes, noblemen, and persons of the greatest distinction. Number 1, princes and persons of distinction everywhere must be by all means be so managed that we may have their ear, and that we will easily secure their hearts, by which way of proceeding all persons will become our creatures, and no one will dare to give the society the least disquiet or opposition. Number 2, that ecclesiastical person gain a great footing in the favor of princes and noblemen by winking at their vices and putting a favorable construction on whatever they do amiss. Experience convinces. And this we may observe in their contracting of marriages with their near relations and kindred or the like. It must be our business to encourage such whose inclinations lies this way, by leading up in hopes that through our assistance they may easily obtain a dispensation from the Pope, and no doubt he will readily grant it if proper reason be urged, parallel cases produced and opinions quoted which countenance such actions. When the common good of mankind and the greater achievement of God's glory, which are the only end and design of the society, are pretended to be the sole motives to them. Number 3, the same as we observe when the prince happens to engage in any enterprise which is not equally approved by all his nobility, for in such cases he must be edged and on and excited, whilst they, on the other hand, must be dissuaded from opposing him and advised to acquiesce in all his proposals. But this must be done only in generals, always avoiding particulars, lest upon the ill success of the affair the miscarriage be thrown upon the society, and should ever the action be called in question, care must be taken to have instruction always ready, plainly forbidding it, and there also must be backed with the authority of some senior members who, being wholly ignorant of the matter, must attest upon oath that such groundless insinuations are a malicious and base imputation on the society. Number 4, it will also be very much further as in gaining the favor of princes if our members artfully warn themselves by the interest of others into honorable embassies to foreign courts in their behalf, but especially to the Pope and great monarchs, for by such opportunities they will be in a capacity both to recommend themselves and their society. To this end, therefore, let none but thorough zealots for our interests and persons well versed in the schemes and institution of the society be ever pitched for such purposes. Number 5, above all, due care must be taken to carry favor with the minions and domestics of princes and noblemen, whom by small presents and many offices of piety we may so far bias, as by means of them to get a faithful intelligence of the bent of their master's humors and inclination. Thus will the society be better qualified to chime in with their tempers. Number 6, how much the society has benefited from their engagement in marriage treaties, the house of Austria and Bourbon, Poland and other kingdoms are experimental evidences. Wherefore, let such matches be with prudence picked up, whose parents are our friends and firmly attached to our interest. Number 7, princes and ladies of quality are easily to be gained by the influence of the woman of their bed chamber, for which reason we must by all means pay particular address to these, for thereby there will be no secrets in the family, but we shall have fully disclosed to us. Number 8, in directing the consciences of great men, it must be observed that our confessors are to follow the opinion of those who allow the greater latitude in opposition to that of other religious orders, that their penitents, being allured with the prospects of such freedom, may readily relinquish them and wholly depend upon our direction and counsel. Number 9, princes, prelates, and all others who are capable of being signally serviceable to the order must be favored so far as to be made partakers of all the merits of the society, after a proper information of the high importance of so great a privilege. Number 10, let these notions be cautiously and with cunning instilled into the people that this society is entrusted with a far greater power of solving even the nicest cases, of dispensing with fasts, with paying and demanding of debts, with impediments of matrimony and other common matters, and that than any other religious order which insinuations will be of such consequence, that many of necessity must have recourse to us, and thereby lay themselves under the strictest obligations. Number 11, it will be very proper to give invitations to such to attend our sermons and fellowships, to hear our orations and declamations, as also to compliment them with verses and theses, to address them in a genteel and complacent manner, and at proper opportunities to give them handsome entertainments. Number 12, let proper methods be used to get knowledge of the animosities that arise among great men, that we may have a finger in reconciling their differences. For by this means we shall gradually become acquainted with their friends in secret affairs, and of necessity engage one of the parties in our interest. Number 13, should discovery happen to be made that any person serves either king or prince who is who is not well affected towards our society. No stone must be left unturned by our members, or which is more proper, some other to induce him by promises, favors, and preferments, which must be procured for him under the king, under his king or prince, to entertain a friendship for and familiarity with us. Number 14. Let all be very cautious and recommending or preferring such as have been, in a way, dismissed from the society, but especially those who of their own accord have departed from it. For let them disguise it ever so cunningly. Nevertheless, they always retain an implacable hatred against our order. Number 15. Finally, let all with such artfulness gain the ascendant over prince, nobleman, and the magistrates of every place, that they may be ready at our beck, even to sacrifice their nearest relation, most intimate friends, when we say it is for our interest and advantage. We'll read the next chapter, translated from this. May God our Father continue to help us